What if the thing you need isn't more effort, but a skill set that we were not taught in medicine? What if you could practice medicine with sustainable excellence rather than self-sacrifice? What if they were not mutually exclusive? What if support could be practical, ethical, and immediately useful in real-life medicine? Is it possible for physicians to actually change? What can become possible if you bring more pause and presence into the middle of a hard day? Thanks for joining us today at the Healing Medicine Podcast. Who are you listening to? I am Dr. Jessie Mahoney, and my co-host is Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang. We are two board-certified physicians who bring decades of experience to the conversation about wellness. If you crave more ease and aspire to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We hope you'll love today's episode, and if so, please share it. A reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice. Today's episode is the case for coaching in modern medicine. Today, I want to talk about the case for coaching in modern medicine. So many physicians are doing extraordinarily well on paper and struggling underneath. As physicians, we are trained to be capable, discerning, skeptical, and self-sufficient. Sometimes these same qualities keep us from receiving the very support that would help us the most. So my invitation today is to look at coaching differently, not as remediation, not as an indulgence, not as something else to do, but as a helpful, practical response to the realities of practicing medicine today, modern medicine, or maybe it's not modern. To me, coaching is about helping physicians build sustainable excellence without self-sacrifice, offering a skill set that medicine didn't teach you, understanding how physicians do and can change, and it's about cultivating more pause and presence in real-life medicine, given the realities of the current situation. So we're going to talk about the hidden gap that coaching is built for. We're going to talk about the space between looking fine on the outside, but not on the inside, and some of the realities about our broken system, and why this means that physicians need tools to practice sustainably and safely within that system. Not because they're the problem, the system is the problem, but because there are tools that can help us work within it at a lower cost to ourselves. And then I want to pivot to trained skepticism, something I bring up occasionally, because we are trained in medicine to be skeptical. And it helps us in some settings, and it's also a barrier in others. And I have seen it be quite a barrier for coaching. And there's a lot of noise in the world about coaching. And no, not all coaching is good or helpful, but many of us lean into our trained skepticism and miss out on something that could really, truly help. We're also going to talk about what coaching actually is and how it works. So I hope that you all leave seeing coaching not as extra, but as relevant, practical, and deeply humane. And as a side note, I gave a workshop for Stanford Fellows as part of my work that I do with Stanford about the case for coaching in modern medicine. I think that fellows and trainees in particular are so strapped for time that anything that they do has to truly have a case. And so that's where a lot of these thoughts came from. And I think it's really, really worthwhile for everyone in healthcare to hear it, and anyone as a human who might want to engage in coaching. So to start, coaching is actually built to meet a gap. The gap is for those people who are successful on the surface, look like things are amazing, but they're struggling underneath. And I want to point out that this is almost every human being. Maybe some people don't look successful on the surface, but every human being struggles underneath. It is part of being a human. And to be fair, even after coaching, you struggle, but you struggle less and you waste less energy on the struggle. So in the case of physicians, the gap is that we are competent, high functioning, dependable, capable, over functioning, honestly, and making a huge difference in the world. But many, many of us, especially women in medicine, feel depleted, resentful, anxious, numb, and disconnected from themselves and from the version of medicine that they signed up for. Medicine today is not at all the medicine that I signed up for when I entered medical school almost 30 years ago. And actually over 30 years ago. And it certainly isn't the medicine that I decided I wanted to do 8-ish years before that, right? Because that's how long it takes to get there. So the idea of coaching is not asking you to lower your standards. It's not about asking you to care less. And it's not by saying it's your fault. It's really, how can we move forward with more agency and more clarity and more intention and more steadiness in spite of a broken system, or even if the system is broken, because it's better for us. So as we begin, just to consider, how are you functioning well on the outside, but paying for it dearly underneath? What are you doing because you can or should, think you should, but is not sustainable? And could you practice with more ease without giving up excellence? What if that were possible? The system is 100% broken. And that is why coaching is needed right now, because there are tools that can help us navigate a broken system with less personal, energetic, emotional, and health costs to ourselves. And what we can do in coaching is honestly tell the truth about it, be honest and be vulnerable about it, and still build our own capacity within it. So what's happening in healthcare and what's happening to people who work in medicine is that really it's a predictable response to the conditions of modern medicine. The system does need to change, but at the same time, most physicians can't or don't want to wait for the system to become humane because they want to keep practicing. And if you don't want to keep practicing and you want to do something else, fine, or you don't believe that the system will change, or you don't believe that coaching can help you, my invitation would be to get coached and then make your decision. If it still feels out of alignment, or you still want to do something else, you're being pulled towards something else, do that. I always say to people I'm working with who are thinking about a transition, you want to be moving towards something, not running away from something. So it isn't that it's medicine's fault. It's that you want to spend your life doing something else. And coaching tools allow you to have that clarity. And so it's not in coaching. We don't pretend that the system is okay or not broken. And coaching is not intended to bypass structural harm. It doesn't ask you to just decide it's not hard. What it offers is a way to build agency and discernment in the midst of these very real conditions. And so that's the skill set that medicine doesn't teach you. My way of describing it would be, it doesn't teach you how to stay resourced enough to respond wisely inside a system that pulls us, or is currently pulling us, away from who we are and why we went into this work. And so coaching helps you stay grounded enough and resourced enough to respond wisely inside this system. And wisely is intentionally, purposefully, kindly, and lovingly, rather than making reactive decisions from a place of fear. A few questions here that might be helpful to think about. What part of modern medicine feels the hardest to metabolize right now? Where are you carrying moral distress? And what have you been trying to solve with more effort that actually requires a different skill? These questions are useful. One, we know reflection opens up doors to things that you didn't have access to. But also from the concept of if we don't see it, we can't change it. And so the awareness of these things is where so much of the power comes in coaching and in life. Seeing what's actually there. Denying it or showing up by default is where the problems arise. So another problem that arises is because we're trained to be skeptical. And while it protects us in medicine, it's part of good medical training. It helps us question assumptions, assess evidence, protect patients from poor care, false promises, evaluate studies. It's a strength there. But it's also, in many of us, overlearned. And we carry over skepticism to other things. We dismiss support. We dismiss things that might be helpful. And we often dismiss things before we understand them. And we think that people who are open to things or try things that aren't proven yet might be naive. Or making a mistake. We tend to be not trusting. And what I would offer is that there are some things that we know to be good and know to be helpful. And either the studies aren't out there yet or they're new. And I just want to offer their studies are actually out there for coaching. But many people are skeptical because it doesn't fit the medical model. And coaching is set up in a completely different way. But when we're trained in medicine, we evaluate everything from that medical model. And the way it works, the format, the structure, all of it is completely different than what we are used to in medicine. And in fact, it is one of the reasons that many people find being a physician coach challenging, because being a physician coach is almost the exact opposite approach to being a physician. We keep the ethical standards and we care and we want to help, but the style and approach and setup and skill set is very different. So I think it's important to just remember that when you're thinking about coaching, it doesn't mean that it's vague or unscientific. It doesn't mean it's indulgent. A lot of your caution comes from the fact that coaching doesn't have a medical school or a coaching school. And many people want to evaluate coaching schools in the same way as medical training. Not possible. Many people want to evaluate certifications in the same way. Not possible. Some of the best coaches, in my experience, actually don't really have too many certifications, or they have many, and they blended different pieces from all of them. It is just an unregulated industry, and it works in ways that our medical mind doesn't really analyze in the same way. And so just to recognize that sometimes our skepticism can keep us from something that might actually be super helpful. Sometimes it's wisdom and discernment, and sometimes we use it as a way to postpone or avoid or stay stuck. So I would ask a couple of reflection questions here, the theme of the day. Where is your skepticism in life serving you well? Where is your skepticism when it comes to your own wellness serving you well? Where might skepticism be functioning more as protection rather than discernment? And are there kinds of support that you reject automatically out of hand? And why do you do that? The last one I might add here is just, do you judge other people about what they have found helpful? And how does that impact your own life experience and life choices? So moving on from that topic, I wanted to clarify a little bit about what coaching actually is, because that is part of making a case for coaching in modern medicine. But what's cool about coaching is it's super, super practical. It's a non-evaluative skill set. So you're not judged. It's basically opening your mind and creating new pathways and new approaches and shifting perspectives and asking you to look at things upside down and sideways and be intentional, clear, and thoughtful about in my case, the coaching I offer, physiology and mindset. Coaching is not therapy. It's not treatment. It's not vague encouragement. And it's not about fixing problems either. It's not about advice. And many of us confuse it with mentorship as well. Coaching is to help you think strategically. You can think of it as an optimizing. You can think of it as healing. You can also think of it as a creative endeavor. It's one of the things I love. It's also structured. It's a process that helps you regulate your nervous system, notice habitual thought patterns, clarify your values, and communicate and act more intentionally in real situations. It doesn't change the situation. It changes how you respond to them. And then the situation changes when you show up differently. So medicine teaches us diagnosis, teaches us treatment, teaches us decision-making responsibility. It teaches endurance. It does not teach us how to work skillfully with our own physiology under pressure, our own automatic thoughts, and our own relational patterns in high-stakes moments. This is the stuff that coaching is so relevant for. It offers a space in a culture that's saturated with hierarchy, judgment, performance, urgency, internal pressure, where the questions are not what's wrong with you or what you need to improve or change or shift. It's what's happening, what's possible, and how would you like to show up, what's in your control. And this is why physicians love it, because it's proactive, it's forward moving. We take things as they are and decide how we are going to show up. And we can use our overfunctioning tools and our brilliant minds here as an asset rather than as a hindrance. Medicine rewards a lot of patterns that work for the system and help you succeed and get there, but become expensive in long-term practice. And they are the things that contribute to burnout. And you've heard me talk about them a lot. And they don't just contribute to burnout. They contribute to failed marriages, disconnection, unhappy lives, and a lot of health issues as well. And so what I mean by this is medicine trains and rewards urgent patterns such as like recurrent patterns is what I mean, such as urgency, perfectionism, hypervigilance, endurance, staying silent, relentless productivity. These help you become excellent, but they don't help you stay excellent. They help you function in demanding environments, but over time, they drain you and in some cases kill you. If we look at the physician suicide rates, they impact our sleep. They impact our relationships, they impact our joy, they impact our recovery time or lack thereof, they impact our ability to be present, and they impact our perspective. They literally put gray glasses on things, they drain our energy, they close our vision, they make a narrow vision rather than a wider, more expansive vision. I call them expensive in that case, emotionally, energetically, and often financially expensive. And they're so normalized that most of us think they're just normal, or they're a part of us. They have shaped us to such a degree we don't know what's us anymore and what's trained. And so coaching helps you see what's you versus what's trained. And I want to argue here, not argue, state, share, give my opinion, that it's possible to practice excellent medicine without all of these. Once you're aware of them, you can be discerning and be strategic about what parts of them you bring to what parts of your practice. And the costs become less. So a few more questions here, just to give you the idea of how does coaching help? How does it get you to change your thoughts? Which patterns are problematic for you? Where do they help? And where do they hurt? And recognizing that what I'm sharing here is just a few. And when you delve into coaching, you can see where these patterns and trained ways of showing up show up in every facet of your life. And changing them is harder than it sounds. But the first step is noticing that they're there. So how do we change? Our traditional physician training is to put in more effort and work hard and sort of white knuckle willpower our way. And this is the point that I really want to bring up about coaching. In coaching, that is not what we do. And in the kind of coaching that I offer, it's especially not what we do. I believe that you need to use your physiology for you to make it easier. And you have to use different strategies. If you want different results, you have to show up differently. And so we try to use the same strategy that helped us succeed: discipline, effort, pushing, endurance. And it doesn't solve the problem. If you've listened to my TED Talk, I talk about fixing, managing, controlling, researching, trying harder, leaning into data and evidence, and not finding the solution. Because the solution is not an effort problem. It's not a brain power problem. It's mostly a nervous system problem. It's a patterning problem. It's a communication problem. And usually it's a problem of giving yourself permission. It's also a cultural problem in medicine. So talking about today how physicians can change without using more effort, how you need to slow down enough to notice what's happening. That's what we do in coaching. We slow down enough to notice what's happening. And you have someone, a coach, who serves as a mirror, hopefully a thoughtful mirror, a kind mirror, a compassionate mirror, and ideally a highly trained mirror. I had a conversation yesterday with an organization who's thinking about bringing in more coaching. And I did make the point that bad coaching is worse than no coaching, because then people give up. And very often we get one chance with a physician who is struggling and in pain. And so you do not want to offer not good coaching. And I work with many people who have had experiences that were not good, and they sort of wrote off coaching, and then they thought they tried again, or they came to a retreat because they thought maybe that was different, and then they re-engaged in coaching. And so recognizing that not all coaching is the same, and there is a space there to be discerning, which is probably a topic of another podcast. But at any rate, coaching helps you, a good coach helps you recognize conditioned patterns, and you don't need to follow them. You can recognize them as conditioned patterns and choose what you want to do. Sometimes just recognizing them is enough, because then they're not ruling the day. So this is where coaching is so powerful. It's actionable, and it's not just inspirational. So it's building the awareness, and it's practicing. What you practice grows. Practicing new responses that are authentic to you. A lot of times people say, well, just tell me what to think. But every human brain is different, and every smart human brain is especially different. And so you have to work with that brain of yours to find the things that are going to work for you. And coaching can help you sort through options and things and figure out where the hangups are. And that's where a good coach who is well-trained and wise and has a strategic approach can be really, really helpful. And all of this acknowledges that it's helpful even in challenging the worst of circumstances. It's also helpful in creating amazing circumstances. And you can use it in both ways, to create amazing and optimize and help you navigate something challenging with less cost and more ease. So some questions here for fun, because I'm into questions today. What is something you're trying to fix with more effort that is not an effort problem? And for you to remember what that means, if you listen to my TED Talk, I talked about how I was trying to fix my husband's severe depression and its impact on our family by trying harder. And I was trying to fix it by research and effort and control and making sure everyone was going to be okay. And that is not, or was not, an effort problem. Where are you relying on force, where a new skill is what's needed? And that's a similar question, but sometimes a slightly different way of asking it can impact you differently. And what could become possible if change did not come from pushing harder? Oftentimes it comes from softening, letting go, releasing control. If you think about it, when you have something super tightly packed, it's hard to move things around. When you loosen it and you create space between rocks, for example, they can move, you can shake it up. Same thing when you're stirring in recipe and you're cooking something. When it's too tight, nothing works. When you create space and you soften it and you have more room, then things can actually transform more easily. And coaching is actually kind of like that. I wanted to talk about something that I bring up in coaching, and it's a chance for a little free coaching as you're listening. But in medicine, we have a message, something happened, and we react. And we don't regulate our nervous systems, and we don't think. And so what I want to point out is that the first step is to regulate in coaching. And this is a step that many coaches miss and many people in healthcare miss as well. So that's regulating your nervous system, regulating yourself. Why I call what I do pause and presence is the pause. The second step is then think, then decide what you want to do. To me, that's presence. And then you have the communication and the intention, how you want to show up, what you want to do. Again, that can be a feeling, that can be an action, it can be a not action. There's so many things there. But we, as men in healthcare, are trained to show up activated, not regulated. And then we, from an activated state, immediately try to think our way out while our nervous system is in overdrive. When your nervous system is in overdrive, your thinking is narrower. The pace is faster. We don't see choices. We don't see options. This is why so many people feel stuck in medicine, because our nervous systems are in chronic overdrive. That's the value of retreats, joining me for yoga, and the approach to coaching that is mindful coaching, nervous system coaching, which is also woven deeply into all effective coaching, in my opinion. And then when you're regulated and you pause and you're present, you have the ability to see things and notice things and also feel things, to listen to your body. When you're regulated, you can get somatic information, brain information. And when you're present, you can process all of that. It's where the awareness comes. It's not the overthinking and thinking your way out. It's awareness, sitting, thinking, feeling, being present, being. And then after that is when you communicate on purpose, are intentional, choose an intention, all kinds of other things. So this is why coaching is so helpful. And it's not just a think differently, memorize a phrase, etc. And recognizing also that our ability to regulate is a practice. It takes a lot of work. And it isn't as simple as just going to yoga. Those of you who have been practicing with me for 5 years, actually 6 years this weekend, that from when I'm recording this is my 6-year anniversary of teaching free yoga to doctors. There are many people who have been coming for all 6 years. And it's a process. There are people who are coming back to their 4th retreat, and it gets better and better and better and better. I still continue to practice regulating daily. It's a learned process that many of us didn't start learning until we were older. And in medicine, we haven't prized it or glorified it, and we should. So recognizing that it takes practice and the default sympathomimetic overdrive is not our friend. And then there's all this work in the think, feel, noticing your body, awareness, being present. So pause first, pause and regulate, be present, think, feel, and then communicate, act, speak, do, don't do, all the things. But you're then moving forward with agency. And when you do that, everything shifts around you. It might shift a tiny thing. It might shift one phrase that you say. And notice that this is very different than I'll just say no to everything, or set boundaries, or, tell a Pollyanna story, or quit. It's none of those. It's actually really learning how to decide how you might want to move forward intentionally. And recognizing that change does not come from more effort, doesn't come from trying harder, doesn't come from forcing, white knuckling, willpower, discipline. It's actually none of those things. And it's also why pace matters. Slowing down affects your physiology, and it affects your ability to change. There is a quote in the ER world, and I never get it quite right, but the idea is in a code that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so you actually want to slow down rather than speed up. And I would say the truth, that's also true for coaching. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So the ultimate change, and you're lubing the gears with oil, or I don't know what the equivalent in an electric car would be, but basically you're adding the lubricant so that things can happen more quickly. And space and pace and physiology are all part of that. So a last point about coaching and why it's required, or a case for it, is that it matters whether you support yourself or not. And we were trained in healthcare to think that doing it without support was the more important, better, most noble way to do it. And I think that getting help helps. And the people who get support and coaching are honestly the smartest. They are the highest performers. I see time and time again when people work with me, they then get offered big leadership roles and big promotions and amazing roles. And this is because they change how they show up. They have capacity for the role and they can handle the role without dissolving into a mucky mess. And so it's possible that allowing yourself to have support doesn't have to be the last resort. I would actually say it should be the first resort. Treat yourself like a professional athlete. Professional athletes have coaches for everything. And that's really what we need in medicine. Like modern medicine is very much like a professional sports gig. There's a lot at stake, and we really need to show up well. And I think recognizing that this kind of support that you choose is very also important. So it is important to be discerning about what's helpful and what's not, and making sure that there's a method and that there's no shame and no pressuring and no, I would say, over-promising. That being said, what coaching can promise and offer is beyond anything I ever imagined. And so what might feel like an overpromise might actually be realistic. But again, be thoughtful, ask your questions, and give yourself permission to try it. Have your own back and just say you're going to try this and see if something could help you. What if it could help you? And what if you're not engaging in it? What if things don't have to be bad enough yet? Or, suffering isn't actually better for you. So I do want to offer that coaching in modern medicine is helpful and important, but it's also deeply personal and it's not for everyone. And that's actually one of the reasons why I interview people before I engage in one-on-one coaching, because I think it's important. You have to be interested in changing. You have to be open and receptive, and you have to want something different. And not everyone is in that space. And oftentimes, if you are having a mental health situation that's untreated or unaddressed, it's not a great place for coaching. And a good coach is going to check in about that. And, group coaching is a little bit different because there's a little bit more observation involved, and retreats, you can get things out of them almost no matter where you are, except if you are in a mental health crisis or, under the influence of addictive substances, then retreats are not a good place for you. So I don't want to say it's always helpful, but it's a deeply personal experience. And I think it's important to not judge others for what they choose and not judge yourself for what feels right. So the conversation shouldn't really be about whether it's needed, required. We shouldn't mandate it. I notice a new trend too, where it's like everybody needs coaching. Everybody deserves it. It's a choice. It's a modality that is super helpful for many people. There are a lot of good reasons for it, as we've talked about it, and you choose. How might it be helpful? Is there anything in this podcast that resonated that you think like, wow, I would like to change that. I would like to be able to practice sustainable excellence without as much self-sacrifice. I would like to be able to metabolize some of the challenges in medicine with more ease so they cause less harm. I would like to have clarity about the patterns that are ruling my day behind the scenes and their costs, so that I can have agency and be discerning about when and where they're helpful. Some other things that I brought up is just noticing where you try to fix things with effort that aren't an effort problem. Where are you showing up skeptical and maybe over discerning, keeping yourself from getting support that you need? What might shift in your practice or in your life or in your relationships if you showed up more regulated, less activated, thinking, feeling, and acting on purpose? And what if you just allowed yourself to invest and try something without needing to prove that you're suffering enough, it's bad enough, you deserve it. I think the space that I have ultimately landed in after a fair bit of coaching is that if it calls to me, I should try it. I can always learn something. There's always tools there that are helpful. And if for some reason it's sounding like it works for me, I should trust myself. I should step out of the noise. I should step out of the judgment, which we're oh so trained to have, and step out of the skepticism and look at it from a balanced, somatic, holistic perspective. As I near the end of this, what felt a little bit like a soliloquy, I miss Ni Chang today. Coaching is not a luxury. It's not an add-on. It's also not a scam or craziness. There are a lot of very valid practical reasons why it is a useful, helpful response to the demands of modern medicine. It supports sustainable excellence. It offers a skill set that we were not taught in our medical training. It helps us change without using more effort and energy, which none of us have. And it helps you cultivate pause and presence for medicine and beyond, for your relationships, your health, and all of the things. And so it isn't one more thing. It's a different, better way of relating to all of the things that we navigate in our world: pressure, responsibility, conditioning. And so could you consider that investing in yourself and something that helps, whether it's coaching or something else, is not a weakness, but it's wise, it's helpful, it's smart, and it's strategic. I hope that something in this podcast is a gold nugget for you, or something that resonates or appeals. And I hope that it has helped you understand what all the hype and hoopla about coaching is, and has given you a few tools to be discerning about where, when, why, how it might help you. And it could be that you're not in a space for it right now. Also fine. Again, this isn't about judgment. So you do you. Trust yourself, but don't immediately dismiss things just because they're unfamiliar or they work on a different paradigm than the medical paradigm. Please stay on after the sound of the singing bowl for the mindful moment. I would love to practice with you. Please also consider joining me for coaching or a retreat. I offer retreats for women physicians at Nicasio Creek Farm many, many times a year. All very unique offerings. They're a small group with a max of 7 women physicians at each, so that we have a really intimate, beautiful, connecting experience where you can make friends and engage in group coaching and a little bit of one-on-one coaching, at the same time regulating your nervous system with nature, mindfulness, rest, all kinds of absolutely amazing things. Ni Chang and I have the Connect in Nature retreat coming up this summer at Green Gulch. We haven't offered it in 2 years, and I would love to connect with some of you there. It's also a chance for you to bring spouses, partners, friends who are in medicine or not in medicine, because it's open to both sexes and those outside of medicine. It's really helpful for those who love you to better understand you and to regulate their own nervous systems. All of us need it in the world today. In terms of coaching offerings, upcoming, right now, the only offering is one-on-one coaching. But over this summer, I will have another advanced coaching group only open to those who have either been on a retreat with me or done coaching with me before. And then in the late summer, fall, I will bring back my group coaching offerings. I think I will offer Mindful Love again, because I'm having so much fun in the spring group to help people with relationships and marriages, a spot where a lot of the coaching is so, so valuable. It changed my whole marriage. And I will also offer Transition Well for people who are thinking about wanting to make a change in medicine and not quite sure how, feeling stuck. I will offer Leading from the Heart as well, leadership coaching, heart-centered, mindful, leading with a lens to wellness. And then another round of advanced coaching. All of these are small groups, usually a maximum of 10 people, 10 women in the small groups, and they're just really amazing. And I very often get the question, do I coach men? Yes, I do, one-on-one and or at the Connected Nature Retreat. I love coaching men. As many of you know, I have 2 brothers, a husband, 3 sons, and 1 grandson. So I am someone who enjoys their presence and is very familiar with their mindset and challenges. And I've coached many men physician one-on-one, and I love it. So I'm happy to help with that. My group offerings are limited to women because I think there is an important connection there that happens better when women are only with women. So thank you all again so much for listening. May you all be well, and may you all consider how coaching might be helpful, how it is a skill set for modern medicine, and hopefully I've given you some things to think about. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Join us for coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, and retreats. Invite us to speak at your institution or conference. When you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change. Find me, Chang Liang, at Awakened Breath, and Jessie Mahoney at Pause and Presence. Welcome to this mindful moment offering, inviting you to sit in a position of comfort and close your eyes or lower your gaze a few inches in front of you if it's safe for you to do so. Noticing the support of the ground beneath your feet, the support of whatever you're sitting on, remembering that that support is unconditional. You simply have to notice. Inviting you now to clench your fists, both of your fists, noticing this sense of the tension of the fingers against the palm, and thinking about something from your childhood that has shaped you into perhaps having some sort of maladaptive coping mechanism, whether it is how you encounter stress or how there could be certain reactions, defense mechanisms learned from childhood. It could be a particular memory or just a noticeable habit from before. Envisioning that habit or circumstance being clenched within your fists as something that you have inadvertently held on to all these years, not by any fault of your own, but simply because that's part of your past and it might have become ingrained into your behavior. Noticing that you're intentionally clenching and clasping, grasping on to this. Noticing the tension and the pressure of doing this. And now choosing intentionally to slowly open your palms back up so that your palms are wide open, releasing that circumstance, that habit, that maladaptive coping mechanism that was learned and perhaps needed for your survival. But now intentionally choosing to let it breathe, have space. Envisioning that you can look at it, you can observe it, you can get curious about it, can shed some light by simply opening up your palms and bringing literal space to choose what you do next. And as you're ready, bringing your hands back into a position of comfort in your lap, noticing what's arising for you, any thoughts, emotions, or body sensations after practicing that exercise. Knowing that help is always available for you to process through some of these aspects of reparenting, giving yourself permission to have agency over who you are and what you do here and now. Thanks so much for practicing with me.